Laker fans, welcome. This is the Chris Rennie Show. Last night, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers won title number 17. On the backs of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. We're going to talk about that today. LeBron's legacy. Is it an asterisk final? As well as a wild yet exciting NFL weekend. Once again, I'm pleading for help. Fantasy football-wise, Derrick Henry is once again doing what Derrick Henry does with the Titans in this COVID-19 thing. So we're going to talk about that too to close out the show. But before we do that, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and rate the show if you're not already. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFB for all the Chris Rennie Show related content, as well as my casual sports conversations that I have throughout the week on the Twitter sphere. As always, enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. The Los Angeles Lakers are NBA champions. In a year where the NBA took a very non-traditional route to get to that final point, it was a wild ride. Absolutely, no questions about it. And you know, the most telling narrative to me about how this finals played out, this really wasn't ever in question once the bubble started to me. I thought the Lakers were going to run through everybody. I thought the Clippers were going to be their biggest challenger. The Clippers ended up falling out. The Nuggets ended up becoming sort of a team with legitimate stars as the bubble progressed. It was an awesome experience put together by the NBA. But the most telling narrative to me was the bubble was sort of seen as this marathon, this ultra marathon at points. It was 95 days long, away from your families, locked in a bubble in a hotel. So really it was a mental marathon, and the amount of strenuousness of isolation probably started weighing on those players as it progressed. And now they did get to welcome in their families, and some of them were able to, and others, they didn't, and that had to fight its own challenges. But LeBron has always went about playing as a marathon. It's always been a marathon. It's always been an 82-game marathon, not a sprint. It's always been a marathon in the playoffs, not a sprint. It's all about winning. But at the end of the day, it's a long journey to the end. And that is sort of what this season exemplified in a way that I don't think any NBA fans were actually ready for. I know in February and March when this stuff all blew up, when Rudy Gobert touched all the mics, that I did not think we were going to be able to see LeBron at least get an attempt at another NBA Finals appearance and possibly to win it. But, at the end of the day, the NBA put on a phenomenal exhibit on how to handle this coronavirus for the temporary time being. And it worked out. and the Tennessee Titans should be taking notes, not for any other vested interest than besides my fantasy football team, but the NBA champions, the Los Angeles Lakers. As an organization, they went through a lot. The death of Kobe Bryant weighed heavily on many in the NBA, but obviously the organization that he played for bared most of that grief from the league. Playing for Kobe and Gianna was a big theme for the Lakers this year as they went through the season. Every time they wore the Mamba jerseys, it was a fact that they couldn't lose. And the invincibility in those came up short in Game 5. And I think as much as people like me are superstitious in those ways and not superstitious in other ways, it was a little eye-opening. And I think that sort of carried with the Lakers. And I think they realized that rather than relying on things bigger than themselves, just take it one play at a time. It's a basketball game at the end of the day. And as long as you took those one plays at a time and played hard, that's when the Lakers were at their best this year. And that is how the person they were trying so hard to represent and the person they were trying so hard to win for would have done it. And, LeBron James has always been compared to Kobe Bryant. He's always been compared to Michael Jordan. He's a different player than the two. I think we can make that argument all day. But I don't think there's a greater basketball player in the sport. I think he is my generation's version of whatever the older people had with Michael Jordan and the people a little bit older had with Kobe. In a lesser extent, it's definitely awesome seeing him get his fourth. I do think the Lakers should be the heavy favorites going into next year, even if they don't really change anything. And if they do change a lot of things, as long as they have Anthony Davis and LeBron, I just don't think in a 7-game series you're going to be able to stop both of them in a 48-minute, 7-game series. I just don't think there's enough time on the clock to hold them down that long. I think there's too much time, I guess, would be the right way to say that. But it just truly, to me, this championship does mean a lot, especially to the Lakers organization. As a lifelong LeBron fan, it doesn't feel anything like the Miami Heat ones when he left Cleveland the first time. There's not as much heartbreak with that first one he won with the Heat. I think this is more of an appreciation for me. Less excitement. I'm just appreciative of what LeBron's been able to accomplish and how long I've been following him. I think one of the first things I told my friend when we were watching it last night was that I've been a LeBron James fan for 17 years, 18 years. I was 6 years old when he got into the league. That is a very long time. It's been more than 3/4 of my life. It's been a long journey. And, every step of my life, LeBron has been there as either the enemy or the icon that I look up to. And there really isn't a place that I've been in my life that I didn't have some semblance of LeBron with me, whether it be a jersey or him on the TV. It's just how it's always been. The NBA is on from the end of October to the beginning of summer. It's almost always there. You have 3 months of the year without it. And those 3 months without it, it's defending my favorite player. That's what it always has been. And we're gonna have a good off season, as short as it's gonna be. There's no defense needed. 4-6. I don't care what many say. What does this mean for AD now? So Anthony Davis joined up. The Lakers traded almost everything for Anthony Davis. I remember seeing the Thanos memes. You guys got Anthony Davis. What did it cost? And it said everything. Like Anthony Davis wasn't one of the top 5 best players in the NBA. Now, Anthony Davis did not have the greatest track record of winning on his own. And similar to what LeBron said about Miami when he went, is he had to learn how to win. And he did learn that from Miami. Anthony Davis had to learn how to win, and who better to learn from than the greatest winner the sport's ever seen, LeBron James. It doesn't get much better than that, and you could see the different Anthony Davis. He wasn't always forcing up shots. He wasn't always, getting back on defense when he was in New Orleans. He became a legitimate all-time great defensive player. He already was, but the steps he took to become the ball stopper, the elite one, the off-the-ball help defender, the good on-ball screen defender. It just really, he took so many steps to become the best version of himself. And that's what happens when you play with a guy like LeBron James. You become a better basketball player because you realize that when you're talented like Anthony Davis is, that you have to be versatile. And, it's not always going to be your night to score, but you can impact a game in so many ways. And the way LeBron impacts the game was not the way Anthony Davis impacted games. Anthony Davis would have a game where he'd have 6 blocks, 16 rebounds, and 31 points, and a couple assists in there. And that's exactly what they needed from him. And then there was nights where he'd score 16, have 21 rebounds, have 6 assists, still get his blocks, get a couple steals, and he just played a very good all-around game. Just to win. He played as a team player, and that, to me, is going to help move the legacy of Anthony Davis forward. Now, if he got a Finals MVP and outplayed LeBron, I think we'd have a whole different conversation about Anthony Davis on the show today. But Anthony Davis still has a long way to go. And as talented as he is, I think sticking with LeBron is the way to accomplish that feat. I think it's going to be exciting to watch these two together as long as they stay together. I think seeing Anthony Davis get his first ring, it really adds him to a very select list of individuals. And now he's joined a very elite club of NBA Finals champions with that long list of accolades. Now, Charles Barkley doesn't have any room to talk on him. So Anthony Davis just won the NBA on TNT sort of argument that Shaq and Charles Barkley always have about talking. But the greatest story that came from this to me isn't the Stars winning, and this is sarcastic. This is just a fun little side story. Dwight Howard got a ring. I think he solidified himself as a first ballot Hall of Famer due to that ring. Rajon Rondo got another ring. I think he, as well, solidified himself as a first ballot Hall of Famer. J.R. Smith got another ring, making it 2 for him. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think you can tell the story of basketball without J.R. Smith. You can't tell the story of the NBA Finals without J.R. Smith. You can't tell the NBA story without J.R. Smith, the greatest fourth option in the history of the sport. He was a maverick. He was a guy who took the shot you shouldn't have your fourth option taking, and he was the guy who made it. He is my basketball spirit animal. When I am on a court, I am trying to embody J.R. Smith, and he is a 2-time NBA champion. Who else? JaVale McGee. I'm pretty sure got his 3rd ring. Quinn Cook got his 2nd ring. Had a very emotional tweet and Instagram post about how he won one for his dad in the Lakers uniform, who were his dad's favorite team. This finals, and then the best, Danny Green, I don't know how many finals he's got. I think that's 4 for him. Or is that 1 with the Spurs, 1 with the Raptors? 3. That's 3 for Danny Green. So, he's, as much as people hate it, 3 championship rings. He's been an elite option for years. Paul George called him one of the best strappas, whatever that means. I don't know. What's a strappa? I think I'm a strappa when I play basketball. But, yeah, this was a team of veteran people who Dwight had so many accolades. JaVale McGee had been on the Warriors championship teams. He had that championship DNA, as Mark Jackson so likes to say. Quinn Cook had the champions DNA. J.R. Smith had the champions DNA. You know, Deion Waiters has a championship ring now. That's real life. This team, when you look at the help, Caruso has a championship ring now. These guys have this lasting accomplishment, and no one can take that away from them. I don't care if it was in a bubble or not. This is something people are trying to ostracize the championship this year. But in reality, to me, there's two people. There's people who think, oh, they're playing in an LA Fitness gym. I'm like, first off, there's no LA Fitness gym that looks that nice. Most of the time, the courts feel small, the rims feel uneven, and it's not great. And it's mostly because there's idiots at LA Fitness who go in and try to do pull-ups on the rims. And that's not what they're for. There's pull-up bars at LA Fitness. So, yeah, I don't think you can put an asterisk next to this. I think there's a special star you could put next to it because this NBA championship was so much harder to win. There were literally no distractions. Yes, there were no fans, so that adds a complex. But, you know, for all of those people who are like, oh my God, the Lakers didn't have to go on the road. Well, no one had to come to Staples Center. And, you know, I do remember a time when the Lakers were good at basketball, and going into Staples Center was the hardest thing to do in the NBA. So, really, you think that the Lakers wouldn't have benefited from playing at home? Because I think you're crazy. I think they probably would have still won every series in 5 games. I think it would have been different, though. I think the games at home would have probably been bigger blowouts. I think there would have been more big runs. You know, I think opposing teams, you know, the younger players, would probably get a little shaky once their crowd got silenced by LeBron and he hit the silencer. It would have happened, and those are the things that you really can't take into consideration this year. But what you can take into consideration was you had the most elite of elite NBA players, all in a bubble away from the world to protect them from a virus so we can be entertained while they chased and pursued a legacy in a sport, for argument's sake, of people like me. And they won it. The Lakers did. Every other team had an equal chance. This was the most equal playing field playoff teams ever had. No home field advantage. All basketball. No travel. You just stayed in a hotel room. You played basketball. That is a championship. And if every year can be settled in a neutral sort of whatever game you know you're playing, it would probably make for a more truer champion. But this year, I think we got the truest champion. And in a year of longevity and getting through whatever happens next, the Lakers did that. They did it the best. And LeBron, at however old, 36, 37, whatever, still went into an NBA final and put up 30, 11, and 9. I saw Nick Wright post this, and I agreed. And it wasn't even a top 5 finals performance from the man, and they won. And that's why it's so critical when people rate him badly for his finals losses, because he has put up all-time performances, and his team hasn't had his back. You know, in Game 5, when the Lakers should have closed it out, LeBron had one of the most excellent basketball games I have ever seen. And it took Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson and a few other Heat players having some of the games of their lives to just beat that one man. And that's a legacy to me. And I think when you talk about greatest, that is really what it's all about. The Lakers are champions. No one can take that away. LeBron is 4-6 in finals. These are all things that we have to accept. And I cannot wait until we get to see LeBron go after number 5. 3 places. 3 rings. 4 rings now. That is it. That is what we're going to talk about the Lakers. If you guys have more you want to talk about, go for it. I'm here. I'm excited. I mean, I'm glad Danny Green got his redemption. I'm glad Markieff Morris got his redemption. Seeing some of the stuff they went through online, it kind of made me feel bad. And what I said wasn't even really aggressive. I was just making memes. Some people were really getting after it, though, and I think that is just awful. I don't think they're athletes. They are people like you and me. If someone came up to the street and said, "I'm glad your mom's dead," I don't think you'd be very happy, and I don't think you'd be able to handle it. And I don't know how these NBA players and public figures do. It's pretty alarming when someone is sending death threats to a person's wife for missing a jump shot. I think some people need to get help and get evaluated, and some people need to really, really put their priorities in check. And yes, I know I made a joke with that little kid meme getting held back, but I was never going to fly to the bubble and fight Danny Green. And I would never, ever bring Danny Green's family into it. And neither should you. I think, yes, Danny Green bricked a 3. Be upset about it in the moment. But once you go to bed, just let it go. It was Game 5. It wasn't Game 7. And even if it was Game 7, the world's a lot bigger than basketball. You got the NFL. And the Browns are 4-1. And that was a very rude transition. Kind of ruthless, actually. But yeah, don't make fun of players and their families. That's the message I'm trying to send. While also transitioning into the next segment naturally. So, yeah, the Browns 4-1. And once again, the Browns are going to get screwed over. And I'm going to tell you why. The Browns being 4-1 would be electrifying for a lot of reasons. You know, first time since 1994. For those of you who don't know, I was born in 1996. That means in my lifetime, the Cleveland Browns have never started 4-1. I really don't know how to act right now. I know the one thing, and I know a lot of Browns fans are going through this with me, is this just pure case of, well, when's this gonna end? When is it going to, when are we gonna stop being good at football? When are the Browns going to start being the Browns? You know, this is what I think every day. We're 4-1. I'm going to be wearing my Browns pullover to work today. I am going to be an excited Browns fan, granted. And, you know, it sucks because why do the Browns get into the best division in football? Pittsburgh's 4-0. Baltimore's 4-1. The Browns are 4-1. I think we'll split with the Steelers, but I think we're going 0-2 against the Ravens. I think we're taking both against the Bengals. So, you know, as we move forward and the defensive backfield gets a little healthier, I think the Browns are going to continue to get better on the defensive side of the ball. But on the offensive side of the ball, you know, Nick Chubb's out a few weeks. Can Kareem Hunt man the load? Last year, he was a little hurt. Sports hernia surgery when he had to man a little bit more of the load. We'll see. I think the Browns, as a fully healthy team with a fully healthy defensive backfield, are legitimate playoff contenders. With their defensive backfield right now, I am just waiting for that aspect of the team to mess up the Browns. But really, I'm so excited. I mean, Baker played the best first half I've ever seen. His second half was not as great. You know, Kareem Hunt, I mean, that's why you bring him in. I think the Browns found a gem in Demetrius Johnson. Odell Beckham's playing football. Jarvis Landry in the first half was the best receiver I've ever seen. Jarvis Landry in the second half was not. So getting those consistencies, I think yesterday Chris Hubbard filled in for Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller's been the highest rated guard via Pro Football Focus since game 1 of the season. And Chris Hubbard filled in and did very well. And, you know, last year he struggled a lot. He was a guy who received a lot of vitriol from the fan base. I think there was a lot more places that should have got that vitriol. But he's been awesome. And, you know, the Browns have been great. But you look at the rest of the NFL. You look at the AFC. You got the Bills at 4-0, the Patriots at 2-2. So the Browns still wild card slot 2. You got the Colts at 3-2. Browns beat them head-to-head tiebreaker. The Titans are 3-0. If their game gets canceled, they'll move to 3-1. And then you go in and you see the Chiefs and the Raiders, 4-1, 3-2. So the Browns are as good as the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to go and I'm going to make that statement now, and I'm going to really regret that one. But the Browns right now, you can't tell me they're not. You can't tell me Baker Mayfield's not Patrick Mahomes. Can't tell me we don't have a way better run game than the Chiefs. I look at the rankings. It's true. We have a way better run game. Can't tell me the Chiefs have better receivers than the Browns. Can't tell me the Chiefs have a better offensive line than the Browns. You can't. You can't tell me the Chiefs have a better defensive line than the Browns. You can't tell me the Chiefs have a better secondary. I think linebackers is more of a toss-up than people think. I think the Chiefs have better names. But the Browns, they are playing such excellent football. And I know Lamar Jackson's going to have our number next time we play him. Unless he can't figure it out on the back end of his throws, in that intermediate range. Besides that, I really think the Browns are in a position they have never been before. And unfortunately, we're in the best division in football. 4-0 Steelers, 4-1 Ravens. We're in third, and we have a record as good as the best team in football. So, where does that move us? That's a question I have. All right, now in the NFC, and this is where it starts bothering me. All right, the Dallas Cowboys are 2-3, and they're in first place. The Philadelphia Eagles are 1-3-1, and they're in second place. The Washington football team are 1-4, and the New York Giants are 0-5. And the New York Giants are only 2 games out of first place. That is not cool. The Packers and Bears are in a similar situation to the Browns, and then the rest of the NFC is the Rams are 4-1. That's sneaky. The Seahawks 5-0. But yeah, it's been a rough year. Jimmy G got benched. That one hurt me. All us handsome guys kind of took an L there. The other great story outside of the Browns being 4-1 in the NFL was Alex Smith making a return. And the Ohio State fan in me was like, wow, Dwayne Haskins, really? It's his fault on this one. But Alex Smith came back and he took snaps. But Alex Smith, his recovery is a testament to the person he is. I don't know if we all watched it, but we all know the gruesome details of his leg breaking. The eerie date it happened, like 30 years or so from Joe Theismann's leg getting broken by Lawrence Taylor. The 18 surgeries, the possible leg amputation, the skin graft, him coming out with a leg that just didn't look right. And, we all remember that video with the kids spraying him with water. Everyone's like, why are they spraying him with water? What if he slips and his leg snaps? We were so worried for Alex Smith. And I thought it was really funny. Emmanuel Acho, now at Fox Sports, was like, man, I'm watching this like a concerned mother. And I think all of us were who turned that game on. It was awful to watch, granted. The Washington football team is terrible. There was a lot of reasons I wanted to tune in. I wanted to see if it was the offense or if Dwayne Haskins was as bad as they were making it seem out of Washington. I think there's some question marks around him. But the character of Alex Smith can never be brought into question. And when comparing a young player to Alex Smith, one of the grittiest dudes, one of the hardest workers the NFL's ever seen, Urban Meyer said it himself that Alex Smith was the best quarterback he's ever coached. So it really, he didn't have to come back. Alex Smith had nothing to prove to anybody. Alex Smith had been on Super Bowl teams. Alex Smith had been on AFC championship teams, NFC championship teams. Alex Smith had won every single place he had been. And I think a lot of us doubted if it was really worth him coming back. And, part of me as a former football player kind of understands where he was coming from. But even then, I hurt my shoulder. Did I want to play one more time? Yeah, but was it worth it? Not with all the other things I had on my horizon. No, it wasn't. I think Alex Smith just didn't want to go out on someone else's terms, on terms that he couldn't control. I think when you really get into why Alex Smith is back, it is to control his destiny once again. And that's sort of the message Urban Meyer set to his Utah team when they were starting to get good at football at Utah. Control your own destiny. It's a adage in sports as old as time. It really is. And I think that's the epitome of why Alex Smith is back. On my first football game ever, college football, the Alex Smith-led Utah Utes versus the North Carolina Tar Heels. They destroyed them. It wasn't close. And it was a very fun game to watch the shovel pass in action. And ever since then, I rooted for Alex Smith. And even in the moment when I think Alex Smith needed his fan supports the most, when he was down and people were like, God, man, just quit. He didn't quit. And I just think that's the motivation on this Monday that anyone needs, really. So that's why I think we needed to talk about that story. It's an unbelievable story. It really is. And moving on, it's just something we are going to follow for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's been an unbelievable day. I think circling back to the Lakers, as you reevaluate this, I just saw someone on Twitter while I took a quick break saying that Duncan Robinson was a better catch and shooter than Klay Thompson. And I really think this is a conversation I've had on Twitter a bunch. NBA Twitter is so ridiculously stupid. I think most NBA fans that almost follow exclusively the NBA are the dumbest fans on the planet. And I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to mince words. They are stupid, period. There's no world where Duncan Robinson is a better shooter than Klay Thompson. There's no world where Duncan Robinson's even in the same foothold of basketball player as Klay Thompson. And now Duncan Robinson can develop and earn the stripes that Klay Thompson earned. But he's got a ways to go. I mean, he's already as old as Klay Thompson, so he's already a little bit behind. But it's just, they're out of pocket, man, NBA Twitter. I think, really, it's the league with the most haters. I think it's the league with the most unintelligent fans, to put it lightly. They are very front-running. It's a very front-running league. I mean, no one really I'm kind of speechless at some of the stupidity I see in NBA Twitter sections and comments every single day. It is so dumb. The reasons LeBron's not the greatest. There's good reasons to have that LeBron isn't the greatest, but there are some really bad ones. And most of the people in NBA Twitter are using the really bad ones. There are legitimate arguments to be had, and they don't use them. I hate NBA Twitter. I think it's a toxic, unintelligent place to be. It's not a place I like to be. I'd compare it to, what can we compare NBA Twitter to? It's a cesspool. It would honestly be like that. It's that grungy bar you went to in college that you never knew why you were there, but every time you went, you kind of regretted it. That's NBA Twitter. It's disgusting. It's gross. Every time you go into it and read comments, you regret going. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. You all know the place. That's NBA Twitter. Final thoughts on today's show. To close it out, the final thoughts I have. What am I supposed to do when the Titans close their facilities? And then the NFL releases a new schedule, an entirely new schedule, and the Titans weren't on it. But it was already too late. You want to know why? Because I picked up a running back, and I dropped a very talented receiver. Last week, I had the same problem. The receiver who ended up being dropped? It was Chase Claypool. You know who could have used 4 touchdowns this week in fantasy? Me. So, really, my gut instinct combined with the coronavirus has completely destroyed my fantasy football team. And I am asking for your support. I need help. I need a lot of help. I'm worried. I'm going to be 2-3. My team is not getting better. I don't have those star players. I have a lot of good players, no great players. My league's not a trade league. My league's not that dumb. They aren't going to drop a player who just had 4 touchdowns. If he's in the waivers, well, I know everyone's going to try to claim him, and I'm going to be on the lower end of the waivers because I'm going to score so little during the week. And it all comes back to the Titans' ineptitude in figuring this thing out, and then the NFL giving me a tease and being like, "Yo, I guess they are playing after all." I hope they don't play, man. Come on. I mean, I don't want to root for someone to get the coronavirus, but maybe like an asymptomatic test would be nice to get them to shut down the game. So then I don't feel as bad about not playing Derrick Henry. But the fact that they are still there. And, I'm riding Kirk Cousins till the end. I don't care. I'm riding him to the end. He's the GOAT. I thought he played great last night. They're 1-4. Their backs are against the wall. They need to win 10, 11 games. So they gotta hit a win streak here, and I'm gonna bet on Kirk Cousins to do it because I always do, and I am excited for the rest of fantasy football. It's time for me to Billy Bean this stuff up. We're gonna moneyball our way to a ship, and I just need to hammer the teams I'm supposed to beat and win a few games I'm not supposed to win, and we're gonna be back into this conversation. And I think I have the worst fantasy football team ever constructed. And it's because I'm a constant overthinker. So if you're a fantasy football person, take my advice, but when it's my own team, I just can't put it together. I can give great advice for fantasy football, but I just cannot apply the advice myself. Everybody else's team, yeah, no, you make that move, it's going to work out. And it always does. But when I make a move myself, because I don't know what I'm doing, man. When it's my own team. Yeah, so it's I'm just pleading for help mostly. Derrick Henry's down or up. I don't know. That's the biggest part of the problem. I need Hunter Henry to score 50 points. So, that's looking good. My team didn't play terrible. I think once we see what Derrick Henry scores, we'll know how bad it actually was. If Derrick Henry scores 18 points, then, I would need Hunter Henry to score 34, so that's a little bit more possible. But I think it's gonna be a challenge going down. I think I'm gonna ride the Browns defense, though. I really like the way they're playing. Browns got the Steelers next week. Ohio State football and the Big Ten join the party in a week and 10 days. So it's coming. A week and 11 days. 11 days. I'm an idiot. Per usual. But yep, LeBron's a champion again. I will be here battling for LeBron's legacy all the time until the day I die. We're going to add a segment of the week called LeBron's Defense. I don't know. I'm just kidding. That's probably dumb. It could be funny. If I see something just so blatant in NBA Twitter, I will go after it for cheap ratings, just like the NBA. We'll probably talk about ratings on the next show, how the NBA did, that whole overarching sort of argument that the NBA is down for whatever reason. Who wants to know? We'll figure it out. I'll get down to the bottom of this, Mystery Incorporated. And then, that's going to be it for today. Before I get going, I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. And before you guys leave, drop a little rating below. Make sure it's 5 stars. Make sure it's nice. Then, as the day goes, anything about all the things I talked about, hit me with a follow on Twitter at ChrisRennieCFB and we could chat. Besides that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. The Browns are 4-1. I don't know really how to act anymore. I think they may never lose again. That's an old joke from an old friend. So it's just I have never had sports go this well for me. It's never been this great. The Indians, the Cavs won, the Indians lost. The Indians were in the playoffs. They shouldn't have been. They made it. The Browns are 4-1. Who would have thought? Not me. The Lakers and LeBron won a championship. I knew that the whole time. I'm a believer. I don't know. The Ohio State, the rest of the college football atmosphere is not looking great. So Ohio State's really looking good. And then we got it. We got college football, which has just been awesome. So thank you. Hopefully the Astros lose. That's baseball for the day. And that is your host, Chris Fernie, signing out. Peace.